Okay, now that I've got your attention here for a minute, let me explain a bit more about what I mean when I really say that I am done with quilts on my backpacking trips, which you guys know, that's not 100% true. I will never not use a backpacking quilt moving forward on my trips. But you know what? Evolution is a real thing. And when you are going out on a lot of trips, doing a lot of backpacking, a lot of car camping, that kind of thing, then you end up evolving in your gear choices and really figuring out exactly what makes the most sense for you. That's what I've been able to figure out for me, especially over the past season as I transitioned in a way back to using sleeping bags more so than using a quilt system. And well, why did that happen? I wanted to test different sleeping bags over the year of 2021, and the Sea to Summit Spark was a popular choice for me during my trips last year. And so in that process, essentially, I realized that, you know what? I like sleeping in a sleeping bag way more than I do in a quilt. And then I thought about even more. Why did I move to quilts in the first place? And I think I made a mistake at the time when I was like, yeah, let's check out a quilt. And I got a UGQ Bandit top quilt. And what happened in that is I did it solely for the purpose of how much weight can I save in my backpacking system. Even when I first purchased my very first quilt, which is the Hammock Gear Econ, I made mistakes in buying that quilt. It was too short, it was too narrow. I didn't get it specifically for ground sleeping. And so when I really got a quilt wide enough and long enough for ground sleeping, but I have realized that there are aspects of being out on a backpacking trip that are really important to me. And that first and most important thing is getting good sleep. Just like you would at home, you're going to invest in good sleep. So why not invest in really good sleep when you're out in the backcountry with a really nice sleeping pad and a great sleeping bag or quilt, whatever works best for you. But for me, I realized that my desire to save as much weight as possible really wasn't the right move. So fast forward to today, after all of the trips that I went on in 2021, I only used a quilt maybe once or twice during the whole year. I used the Sea to Summit Spark for a majority of my trips. I've picked up a new sleeping bag, the Big Agnes Torchlight UL, and here in front of me, I've got a brand new quilt system that I want to talk about that's super interesting, that just reinforces this idea of I don't need to try to save a ton of weight and just be as minimal as possible. That's not for me. That's not my style at this point. And so stepping aside from the nuances of a quilt like this, make it so that I'm getting the best sleep possible. So what did I really see as the downsides and the issues of using this quilt compared to the Zenbivy bed system, the light bed that I have here in front of me, which uses a quilt? But what was it about this UGQ Bandit, which is a fantastic product, that really made it so I went back to sleeping bags? And I realized that quilts are just finicky. Some of you are going to disagree with me on this point. I have realized that I get tired of messing with pad straps and dealing with, if I roll over from side to side as a side sleeper, am I going to experience draft problems? And even with a 55-inch wide quilt like I have here from this UGQ Bandit, it's just not great for me in the way that I move around and such. So I would really need to get something a lot wider. Well, by doing that, I've essentially got this system here in front of me, which is way more bed-like. It's designed specifically for ground sleeping. And even though it's a quilt, I know that I don't have to mess with all of the issues that I've had with quilts, which again, like you guys are probably some of you thinking, dude, get over it. Like, figure it out, quilts are amazing, and you're just not doing it right. Well, that might be true in some cases, but I'm excited about trying something that utilizes a quilt, but it has a attachment system that really focuses on making this more like a bed, and I can move around in it, and it's not going to cause me the issues that I've had with a quilt that really provides a sleeping bag experience, which we're going to talk more about sleeping bags here in a second. But what's exciting about this Zenbivy, which I wrote this off as an option for a long time. I thought that's going to be a bulky, kind of busy, like cumbersome system. But then I did a bunch of research, and we're going to talk more about this Zenbivy system in a further video. But this thing is really cool, and all of the attachment system points that go onto this fitted sheet onto your sleeping pad and everything really just eliminates those draft points and makes it for a really comfortable sleeping experience. It's a very wide quilt all the way through the footbox. You can see this thing is huge, like so much space to move around in there, and I don't have to worry about those draft points. But yes, it's still a quilt system, which makes it so that I need to have a nice insulated pad underneath me to get the best sleep. But then I've also got a hood, and I've missed that. I have genuinely missed that with a quilt, even though a lot of times I'm wearing a light synthetic jacket like I am here to sleep in, but I pull that hood over, but I really have missed a hood. And so having this Zenbivy bed system that is designed for ground sleeping really allows me to enjoy a quilt experience, save some weight, but also get that best sleep possible that I'm looking for out of a sleeping bag. So now, speaking of sleeping bags, one of the things that I have realized that I love and enjoy about a bag is that it just covers me completely. I know that you are going to be laying on the backside of the sleeping bag that's going to compress the insulation in the bag, and you are essentially losing that insulation value from compressing the insulation back here. And so we know that manufacturers of sleeping bags have reduced the amount of fill and insulation they put on the backside. Like Thermarest, for example, does this very deliberately. They'll put like 70% of the fill through the top and 30%, but there is an aspect of having at least something between you and the pad that provides a small level of insulation. You can't argue with that, even though you don't have those pockets of air that you get from it lofting up and everything. But there are amazing benefits to just feeling like you are secure and cocooned and in something that just creates a nice, comfortable sleep. Oftentimes, I feel like people move to quilts because they feel claustrophobic. They feel like constricted and you can't move around in a bag. Well, that is way less the case now because manufacturers of sleeping bags are designing things that provide you an opportunity to expand and move. Nemo is a great example of this with their spoon-shaped bags that provide so much space within the sleeping bag that it doesn't feel restrictive. And Big Agnes here with their Torchlight, this is exciting for me because you've got these zipper panels on the side that will tighten it up, or you can expand this out to create more spacing inside of the bag, and that's really, really nice. You still got the traditional hood, which I really enjoy. And I have found, again, to repeat myself for the third or fourth time, I'm getting better sleep in a sleeping bag than I get out of a quilt. And if you look at the size of this 55-inch wide tapered quilt versus what I've got here in front of me, for the conditions, the type of backpacking that I do, I just get a better sleep, and it's a more enjoyable experience because of that. And then add this Zenbivy option. This thing is really exciting, and to have this much space, even with a quilt system that is designed for ground sleeping, I think this is great. So I'm curious what you guys think about this. Leave a comment down below and let me know if you think I'm crazy, if I've got a weird thought process going on here. Now, when it comes to sleeping in a hammock, absolutely I'm going to use a quilt because quilts just make the most sense. I've got a hammock gear under quilt here as well as a top quilt and options for a good sleeping experience in a hammock. But for ground sleeping, this is what I am most excited about. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Hope you have an awesome day. See you on the next one.